here, I guess I'm an adorned Ethiopian here. Some of these artifacts are from Ethiopia, not
Yes.
all of them.
We've surrounded you with Christmas cheer.
Marvelous. And
Because-
I would like to give you my own Christmas cheer. Well, it's not mine. Somebody sent me this card, and we'll scan it and put it up right here.
Okay.
It says Cézanne's greetings. Get it?
Oh, that's very
Cézanne's
funny.
greetings. Isn't that funny? And,
That's very
you'll see
good.
the front of the card takes a still life by Cézanne and does a variation on it with Christmas bulbs in place of fruit. Anyway, Cézanne's greetings to you and to our readers and lookers. This week we're going to have an interview what Gene did with a guy who wrote a book on Hooverville. He was a teacher up in Everett.
Randal Gravelle?
Randal Gravelle, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a marvelous guy. He's a real citizen, you know, a zestful citizen, interested in improving the condition of other teachers and other people. What's this?
No, your fly swatter fell down there. Yeah.
Any flies around?
Good. Well, not anymore. No. Flies on you. Hold on, let's put the tree back. There we
I
go.
like that tree there.
Well, it's a nice touch. It's a good touch. All right.
It doesn't look like it's staged either, does it?
No, it doesn't at all. It looks like it grew there.
Okay, sure. I heard from Randal first when he was doing his writing of the book on Hooverville, which most people know is the home of about, roughly 1,000, mostly men who are out of work and living in sort of semi-squalor and shacks down south of the business district in Seattle, although there were Hoovervilles sprinkled in other neighborhoods and around the nation during the Great Depression. But he was looking for pictures, so he got a hold of me, and I helped him out with a couple, or 3 or 4, I'm not sure how many. But the one that we're using in the repeat photography feature that Gene and I do is not one that I found, but one he found.
I'm sitting here with Randal Gravelle, and he has written, want to hold up your book, Randal? And we just shot, let's move it right up here, we'll look in, I'll do and we just shot a now and then photo, which appears this weekend, which features let's wait for the, we've got more building going on around here. It features thanks Randal, it features a shot that Randal found in the book. And how did you and Paul determine where this then was and get to it with such precision?
Actually, that was all Paul. Paul contacted Joshua here at the Sound Transit, and they were able to pinpoint it.
Well, that's not true. Randal, it's not true. I did have a general sense of where it was because there was the Sears building, which is, what's that coffee company?
Well, it's now the Starbucks building.
Starbucks plant down there or something. And so I knew roughly where it was, and I could sort of size it up using Google Earth. But it was really Ron Edge who used more sophisticated techniques and means than I did to put us pretty much on the spot. And the spot is for Gene's repeat. Gene, what is it? Where were you?
Well, we were at Sound Transit, the big facility down in what we call Soto. And we actually had the fellow who's sitting in the photo next to Randy Gravelle is Joshua Clark. He took us through the entire plant and gave us a tour of Sound Transit, and then took us out to that spot where through the struts and the structures of Highway 99, we could actually see just a little piece of the Sears Tower. And it's hard to see through the...
Well, you can see it, though.
Right now, I'll zoom in on the Sears Tower, and we can look at it up close.
Modern media, and for cheap. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, so it was Ron Edge, largely, who determined where the spot was, and then it was Gene and Randal who went there.
What led you to write this book? What is your past?
Well, my main concern was I've taught history for a long time, and I've seen the standard picture of Hooverville, Seattle Hooverville. It's the only picture that consistently comes up in high school textbooks from Seattle. And so I thought, well, I wanted to read a book about what life was like in the Hoovervilles. And I started looking around, and I realized there was absolutely no books written about Hoovervilles anywhere in the United States.
Right.
And I actually found that kind of disappointing, and so I figured, well, I've been reading an awful lot. I probably ought to buckle down and write a book that somebody else might want to read as well.
What have you discovered in you that surprised you? Did you know everything that before you started writing the book you came out at it with a certain notion? What was that notion, and then how did it change?
Well, I think when I first started, I really started with just kind of the idea that it was just a group of guys got together, created the Hoovervilles, and that was basically it. I didn't realize quite how much of a battle it was, how much the city resented having the Hoovervilles there, how much they required. For example, they first burned out the Hoovervilles several times, and then they went ahead and started coming up with agreements with the people in the Hoovervilles, and they had an actual mayor, although it was a quasi-mayor, Jesse Jackson, and all of that I had no idea about. I mean, I was just sort of naive going into the thing, and I hadn't heard about the Citizens League that was also, while not part of Hooverville, also intimately tied into the story of what the unemployed were doing during this time period. My big frustration has always been that all the books that you see on the Great Depression are from the higher level. It's from what did Roosevelt do? What was the economy doing? And in fact, my view has always been what the Great Depression is essentially about is the people that were unemployed, and you never see anybody writing about that aspect of it. And when you start looking at that aspect of it, you start realizing that they really did try to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I mean, the standards line that, why don't we do that now? Well, you look at what they did back then, and you realize they tried and they couldn't. They went with every intention of bringing themselves back up. The Citizens League was an excellent example with the self-help and all of that. But even the Hoovervilles, you look at those guys, they were broke. They had no place to go, so they said, fine, we'll build it up from scratch, And yet still they had the fights that then came out of that, even though they were doing what we today think they should have done. In my research on that, what I kind of look at is, what did Franklin Roosevelt do? And Franklin Roosevelt, he didn't have an answer, but he kept addressing the question. And he came up with the WPA and all the other CCCs and all that kind of stuff to help the people that were there. And I think what happened is we implemented those. World War II came in, and then we kind of stabilized our society. And then somewhere in the 80s, with the beginning of the deeply conservative movement of Ronald Reagan and so forth, we started saying, well, we've helped enough. And we moved away from that, and as a result, we end up back where we were before. If we had CCC programs, if we had WPA programs, a lot of the people that we see that are on the street today would have some support and be able to move on.
You really enjoy this book, really. We recommend it. It's complex enough that it does justice to the difficulties of the guys who lived there, the urges they had, the needs they had, how they were and were not being met by the general public, and sort of 12 years of politics that surround it. Well, it's more like 11 years. Anyway, we highly recommend it, and we'll hope you will probably find some other pictures to put in the blog. I'm sure we will, and other features that relate to it.
I think, in my view, the main lesson we need to draw from the Great Depression is that you can't do it on your own. And the idea that somehow there was this magical time where everybody was able to just simply be independent, be able to, when push comes to shove and your society starts to collapse, you have to start to turn to the government. And I think we've moved away from that. We've seen the government as the enemy. And I think, as a result of that, we're no longer a community like we used to be.
How would we bring that back?
Unfortunately, I think there's too much absolute visceral dissent right now, and there's too much of the concept, especially from, I'll say it, from the conservative side, that you have to be independent. Everything is about you as an individual. I don't know how you get away from that, but ultimately that's what we need to do if we want to build a society that people want to live in.
Right. Well, that's it. On that sad note. Thank you very much, Randal.
Thank you.
Are we back now after listening to Randal?
Yes, we're back.
All right. Well, thanks, Randal, and we have something to say. Gene, what is it we're supposed to say?
Oh, we're just going to say Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, not Happy New Year. We'll do that next week.
How about Cezanne's greetings? Can we add that again?
Yeah, we can add that. We can finish off with Cezanne's greetings, but hold up that beautiful Ethiopian,
That's
that Ethiopian
scene,
cross.
isn't
Yeah, there is a nativity. Isn't that marvelous? Isn't that lovely?
What do you think I could get for this on the street?
Yeah, at least $10.
Yeah, well, it's tempting.
Merry
Bye-bye.
Christmas,
Is
Paul.
that it? Bye-bye. And you too. Bye-bye. And Don, too, over here. Gene's dad, Don, is over here. Merry Christmas, Don.
Happy New Year.
He says Happy New Year. Bye-bye.